Perhaps we are all gradually sensing that something terrible is about to happen in Las Vegas. And the truth is, these are no longer vague perceptions, but a clear and resounding wake-up call. It's no longer just about tourists turning their backs, or casinos that once shone brightly now being eerily empty. It's no longer just a few hotels with empty rooms or a few bars forced to close early. All those disparate signs have now connected into a larger picture. A new cycle of crisis is truly engulfing Vegas. Once considered a symbol of opulence, where every dream could be bought with money, the city is now becoming a perfect reflection of the fragility of the American economy, where mass layoffs, empty casinos, and exhausted people are becoming a familiar sight every day. In today's video, join us as we trace the path of this crisis, to understand why the city that never sleeps is sinking deep into the long nightmare of the recession. A tsunami of layoffs is sweeping across the United States, taking with it hundreds of thousands of jobs in every sector, from tourism and technology to major retail chains. According to the job tracking platform Intelligence, from the beginning of the year to mid-Q3 2025 alone, over 3,555 companies have officially announced layoffs, downsizing, or hiring freezes. This number is not just an economic warning. It's a resounding bell toll for a period of profound instability that is gradually reshaping America after the pandemic. And ironically, Las Vegas, once considered the epitome of the vibrant American dream, is right at the forefront of the wave. For over 3 consecutive years, Nevada has consistently been among the states with the highest unemployment rates in the country, averaging around 5.8%. Las Vegas, the tourism and entertainment capital, is currently facing a 6% unemployment rate, placing it among the top 3 cities with the highest unemployment rates in major US metropolitan areas. At first glance, the number 6% doesn't seem too serious. But let's pause for a moment. That 6% is equivalent to over 72,000 households losing their final source of income to survive. As breadwinners struggling with bills, not knowing where the next meal will come from. They are children who suddenly have to ask their parents if they will still be able to continue going to school. And they are the elderly staring at their blood pressure medication bottles, unsure if they'll have enough money to buy them next month. On the statistical table is just a few percentage points increase or decrease in the data column. But when transformed into real life, each percentage point carries with it tens of thousands of stories, tens of thousands of dreams put on hold, and tens of thousands of homes plunged into silence. Those small numbers, when they hit reality, become heavier than ever. Because behind every unemployed person is a father, a mother, a child losing hope in what America once promised. If you work hard, you'll make it. There are countless reasons for the widespread unemployment wave sweeping across America, but in Las Vegas, the tsunami of layoffs began with the simmering tremors in the city's main artery, the tourism industry. Vegas was once a symbol of vibrancy, where over 41.7 million visitors from around the world flocked each year to live out the dream of go big or go home. But the summer of 2025, which was expected to be a turning point for post-pandemic recovery, ended in silence. The press and politicians continue to reassure that Vegas isn't dead. But the numbers tell a different story. 12% of tourists, about 500,000 people, did not return within a month, taking with them at least $1.3 billion in revenue that used to flow into the local economy. When that blood supply was lost, the entire entertainment machine began to falter, and from here, the cracks appeared. Caesars Entertainment, the city's oldest casino empire, is burdened with $12.3 billion in debt, has been removed from the S&P 500 index, and is gradually losing its appeal to international visitors, particularly Canadian guests, a group that spends several times more than US residents. MGM Resorts, in an effort to cut costs, has closed a series of live concierge desks and eliminated over 800 mid-level management positions. And the new icons once hailed as the future of Vegas, Fontainebleau or the Sphere, have now become ghost landmarks. Empty rooms, unsold tickets, revenue plummeting. The billion-dollar projects are shining brightly tonight, but inside, hundreds of employees have just received their pink slips. That spiral quickly spread. Every job lost on the Strip meant a taxi driver with fewer fares, a laundry that had fewer orders, and a kitchen that closed earlier. An entire ecosystem dependent on tourism is shrinking day by day, from food suppliers and stage staff to small eateries that rely on the flow of night customers. If the people who once created miracles for this city are all left behind, how much longer will the lights on the Strip be able to shine on their own? And that's where the story began to take a different turn. Because when people lose their jobs and casinos are empty, Vegas isn't just facing an economic crisis, it's a distortion of the city's very soul. If you want to experience the true decline of Las Vegas, you don't need to go far. Let's start right at Harry Reid Airport, the gateway that once welcomed tens of millions of people each year. Where once it was packed with tourists pulling suitcases, queuing for car rentals, and calling taxis. Now there are desolate, empty spaces. According to mid-2025 statistics, passenger volume decreased by 8 to 12% compared to the same period in 2024, with international flights dropping by over 13%, particularly from Canada, Mexico, and Europe. The three sources of visitors that once kept Vegas vibrant. An airport employee shared, "We haven't seen Vegas this quiet since the pandemic." That silence didn't stop at the airport. It spread down the glittering boulevards, through every hotel, every casino, every empty room. The occupancy rate for July 2025 is only 76.1%, a decrease of nearly 8% compared to the same period last year, meaning 23,000 rooms will be empty each night. Major resorts like the MGM Grand, Caesars Palace, and Mandalay Bay are launching a series of weekday deals, or staycation packages, desperate attempts to fill not just empty rooms, but also a fading belief. Revenue from gaming, the economic lifeblood of Vegas, continues to plummet. The Strip was down 6.4% in August 2025, marking 4 consecutive months of declining revenue. Casino visits are down by 10–15%, but even more concerning is the sharpest decline in slot machines, which are the goldmine for the mass market. It shows a sad thing. The middle-class Americans, who once kept Vegas alive, are disappearing from the gaming tables. One of the apparent reasons is likely prolonged inflation, which has made the cost of travel unaffordable for millions of families. A vacation that used to cost around $800 can easily exceed $100–200 just for accommodation and meals. For the middle class and retirees, Vegas's core customer base, that means they're choosing to stay home. They went on staycations near their homes or sought out cheaper, quieter destinations. Vegas still shines brightly, but millions who once dreamed of it can now only look from afar. The decline also spread beyond the borders of the United States. Unfavorable exchange rates, complex visa requirements, and rising international flight costs have led to a double-digit decline in tourist numbers from Canada, Mexico, and Europe. A portion of high-end customers has shifted to Macau, Singapore, or Dubai, destinations experiencing a boom in more upscale, newer, and less tired leisure tourism. Vegas, once the ultimate symbol of luxury and freedom, is now being left behind in the race to redefine the global consumer dream. However, what hurts people the most isn't the sales figures. Vegas isn't as fun as it used to be. That's a complaint that's appearing more and more in travel reviews. The system of stacked surcharges, resort fees, parking fees, service charges makes visitors feel squeezed dry even before they step into the casino. Major shows are dwindling, veteran stars are retiring, and iconic venues like the Mirage and Tropicana are closing one by one. The so-called Vegas spirit, where anyone could come to have fun and temporarily forget real life, has now become a privilege for the wealthy. Competition is coming from all sides. Young people are no longer interested in slot machines or traditional poker tables. They bet online, participate in live casinos, or simply seek shorter, cheaper, and more novel experiences. Meanwhile, cities like Miami, Austin, Nashville, and Phoenix are on the rise, They are younger, more dynamic, and less artificial. After decades of burning out, Vegas seems exhausted and out of sync with the very era it once led. The decline of Las Vegas ultimately is not just the story of a tourist city. It's a mirror reflecting the current state of America, where the dream of liberty and happiness is being stifled by cost, instability, and future anxieties. Will the lights on the Strip be bright enough to hide the growing darkness beneath them? And if a city once considered a symbol of the American dream is now slowly fading into silence and skepticism, how many other places in America are quietly walking the same path? We just haven't had time to see them yet. They were once the soul of Las Vegas, who operated hotels, served tables, worked behind the scenes of the stage, or stood behind slot machine counters with familiar smiles. They are not adventurers or billionaires who come here to bet, but the middle class, group of people who make the real pulse of this fantasy city. But now, they are the ones who are gradually being left behind. As neon lights still glow on Strip Avenue, thousands of workers behind chicken wings are struggling to light up their small apartments. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS September 2025, the median income of service workers in Nevada fell 5.2% year-on-year, while the cost of living in Las Vegas increased nearly 9%, mainly due to escalating house, food, and medical prices. A person working full-time in the hotel industry, which used to be enough to support the whole family, now has to work 2 or even 3 extra jobs to pay the rent. Some local surveys estimate that more than a third of tourism workers in Clark County are in a situation where their income is not enough to live. In areas around downtown Fremont or Tropicana Street, many apartments that once housed hotel staff are now vacant, as rents increased more than 14% in just 1 year, according to Redfin 2025. People who cannot afford to stay move to more remote areas like Henderson or Pahrump, where costs are cheaper, but travel time to work each day can be up to 2 hours. Every morning, thousands of people drive across the desert to a city they no longer feel belong to. Meanwhile, the income gap between the middle class and high-income groups in Vegas continues to widen. Casino operators, real estate investors, and major hotel groups still report profits not because of increased revenue, but because they have cut staff and mass automation of services. Machines replace humans in jobs that were once considered Vegas' specialty. Automated receptionists, check-in kiosks, room service robots. Those programmed smiles make Vegas look more modern, but at the same time colder than ever. It's not just a story about economics, it's a story about honor and trust. For many middle-aged people who have been involved in the city for 2 or 3 decades, losing their jobs or having their work hours cut off not only makes them financially difficult, but also shakes their sense of pride, belief that working hard work can still bring about a good life. Now, they are seeing Dream America shrink, Vegas version, fade away in unpaid bills. Because a city cannot be called prosperous if the people who keep it running are exhausted. And perhaps the most important question lies not in growth or revenue figures, but can Las Vegas find its soul again when the same people who worked that miracle are gradually leaving it? As the slot machines stopped spinning and the winning sound stopped ringing as often as before, Las Vegas began to clearly feel what many economists call the shaking of the real recession. There are no longer fragmented warnings, but an overall picture is revealing. Tourism is slowing, investment is slowing, commercial real estate is slipping, and a series of jobs are disappearing in just a few months. What was once considered a thermometer reflects America's consumer health, but has now become the first place to show that the economic body is running high. According to the latest report of the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA, third quarter of 2025, Nevada's GDP growth decreased to 1.4%, the sharpest decrease since the 2020 pandemic. Retail sales in the Las Vegas Valley fell nearly 9% year-on-year, while commercial real estate investment withdrew more than $2.3 billion in the first half of 2025 alone, according to Collier's research data. These numbers reflect what residents have long felt. Vegas's economic wheels are slowing, and this time, it's not just affecting the city, it's spreading to the entire American West. Many experts say Vegas is the eye of an expanding wave. Because the service and tourism industry accounts for more than 26% of the state's total employment, is the sector most vulnerable to consumer fluctuations. When American customers began to tighten spending, Vegas was the first place to feel. And as Vegas stalled, labor, logistics, and energy supply chains in neighboring states like California, Arizona, and Utah were slowed. Transportation companies, food distributors, and event businesses that once lived on Vegas are now recording order declines of 15–20%. On the ground, the manifestations of degradation appear more clearly than ever. Shopping malls around the Strip recorded a 17% drop in visitor numbers, while restaurant closures temporarily increased by 11%. Even the event industry, which was seen as Vegas's lifeline after the war pandemic, began postponing expansion plans because of rising insurance and energy costs. With tens of thousands of people out of work and hundreds of businesses downsizing, many experts say Las Vegas is repeating the silhouette of 2008's. But this time, there is no real estate bubble to blame, but a bubble of trust is gradually bursting. Are those efforts strong enough to save a city that has lived too long in the light of illusion? And if Las Vegas, symbol of consumption and freedom, is going into recession, is the rest of America really safe from the coming wave? If Las Vegas is the earliest mirror of the US recession, its shadow is gradually appearing in 3 other states: Texas, Florida, and Hawaii, destinations that were once considered pillars of the tourism and resort industry nationwide. Despite their different cultures and economic structures, the 3 are sharing a dangerous curve. Prices are escalating, jobs are falling, and the tourism industry, which is the local lifeline, is wobbling along the same path. Trajectory that Vegas has gone before. In Texas, images from the 2025 Texas State Fair have come to epitomize the change. Hundreds of videos circulating on TikTok show unusually empty areas, damp stalls, and visitors complaining that the price is no longer for ordinary people. According to data from the Texas Workforce Commission, September 2025, the unemployment rate in the travel, culinary service industry increased to 5.3%, 1.2 percentage points higher than the same period last year. The Dallas Federal Reserve report also showed that the consumer spending index in the metropolitan area decreased by 7% compared to 2024, while consumer debt increased the fastest since 2010. An economy that once lived on weekend spending of millions of families is now facing a new reality. People no longer pay for what they once considered fun. In the Southeast, Florida, symbol of mass tourism and winter resorts, is also witnessing an unusual cold spell. Not of the weather, but of the economy. A report from Visit Florida, Q3 2025, recorded an 11% decrease in international visitors over the same period, with the Canadian Visitor Group, which contributed up to 30% of total winter tourism spending, the sharpest decrease, nearly 15%. In addition, more than 90,000 temporary jobs in the accommodation and restaurant sectors have been cut since May, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS data. The reason is not only rising airfare and travel insurance, but also the fatigue spending mentality that spreads among the middle class and retirees, the perennial consumer pillars of the state. With Hawaii, the situation was a different nuance, but the results were similar. After the 2023 Maui wildfire disaster, tourism had not yet fully recovered, and in 2025 faced a new decline. Hawaii Tourism Authority reported a 9.6% drop in arrivals in the second quarter of 2025, mostly from Japan and South Korea, 2 markets that once accounted for nearly 40% of international visitors. Hotel industry revenue decreased by 8.1%, while operating and property insurance costs increased by more than 20%. Small businesses depend on travel. Stores, restaurants, transportation services closed one after another. With the already highest cost of living in the country, many indigenous residents were forced to leave, leaving Hawaii on the verge of losing its young workforce. If even once impenetrable travel havens like Texas, Florida, and Hawaii are on the same path as Vegas, is this just a normal economic cycle or a warning for a new era? where the American resort dream is gradually fading. On the surface, Las Vegas still sparkles as if nothing had ever happened. Neon lights still pour down into the desert. Glass towers still reflect brightly at night, and billboards still promise joy that never goes out. But underneath that glamour, the city's foundations are starting to crack, little by little. Not because of an unexpected disaster, but because of the accumulation of economic, social, and environmental rifts that are simultaneously dragging Vegas into its most precarious period since the 2008 Great Crisis. According to Moody's Analytics, September 2025, Las Vegas's Business Confidence Index fell 14% year-on-year, while the CBD Commercial Real Estate Index, CRE Index, fell nearly 11% to its lowest level in nearly a decade. Many investors are quietly withdrawing from the market, shifting capital to safer areas such as Texas or Arizona. Even some projects that were heavily promoted during the post-pandemic period, resorts, convention centers, high-end entertainment areas, have now been postponed indefinitely because of lack of capital and demand. Real decline. Besides economics, social factors are becoming a potential detonator. According to the Nevada Housing Coalition, 2025, the percentage of Las Vegas residents struggling to make rent or mortgage payments rose to 31%, the highest in the entire state. The average rent for a two-bedroom apartment is currently around $1,370 a month, while the median income for service industry employees is only around $42,000 a year, leaving tens of thousands of households spending more than half their income just to keep accommodation. Combined with rising medical and insurance costs, many residents are forced to leave the city, creating an out-migration phenomenon, similar to that in California in previous years. But perhaps the deepest problem lies in changing economic structures. Throughout the decades, Las Vegas was built on a simple formula: the more visitors, the more profits. However, when this model meets its limits, the city seems to have no solid alternative foundation. Vegas's fledgling technology industry accounts for less than 3% of Nevada's total GDP, while manufacturing and education are not nearly enough to create new resilience. One-way economic system depends too heavily on tourism and gambling, makes Vegas more vulnerable than ever to all global fluctuations, from energy prices to natural disasters and climate change. However, the future is still uncertain. A city that once lived by the illusion of light is now forced to learn to stand firm in the darkness of reality. Can Las Vegas be reborn again? Or will today's cracks be the beginning of a new chapter, where the bright lights are just a memory? And perhaps it is at this moment that Las Vegas stands between the two. Lines between illusion and rebirth, between the bright light and the darkness of reality. A city once built on the belief that anything is possible now faces the hardest question. Does the miracle still exist when the foundation is cracking? Because Vegas is not just Nevada's story. It is a metaphor for the whole of America, where the dream of prosperity can be shaken just because of a small crack in trust, in structure, in the balance between people and profits. And when that foundation breaks, we have to ask ourselves, can the light of Vegas shine again? Or will it gradually disappear like a dream that hasn't woken up yet? If you feel it, please share this video. Leave your thoughts below, because sometimes it's our conversation that's where the change begins. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the true stories about America that are changing every day. The content in this video is compiled from publicly available sources, economic reports, and reliable statistical data for analytical and informative purposes. All figures and statements are presented based on information available at the time of production, which may change over time. Video is not affirmative, judgmental, or responsible to any individual, organization, or agency. Our goal is to evoke a multidimensional perspective, helping viewers better understand the current social, economic picture, without promoting, orienting, or concluding politics of any kind.